Do you really think Indiana can hang with Oregon and Georgia? Maybe in some real danger of an upset this weekend. We're going to break it all down, all the big matchups coming up this weekend. So like and subscribe if you love college football.
I do.
I
I
do.
did.
I love it. That's why we talk about it.
Yeah. Come join us, man. Tell a friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This man to my left, right, wherever the heck you are on the internet, he works hard on this. I just show up sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I've been spending too much time on this.
I was lost at a fall wedding in Vermont. I broke Josh Pate's cardinal sin. Went to a fall wedding, so sorry I wasn't there.
Yeah. 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 You were what is it? Private equity venture capitalist from Vermont with the expanding maple syrup conglomerate.
I was damn near in Canada, and there is nothing up there but trees and little towns and roads, and you just drive for hours to get everywhere. So
that sounds awesome.
A lot of time in the car. Well, let's talk some football, man.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wasn't here on Sunday. Was able to catch most of the Georgia game. I thought we looked good. I was frustrated by some things. Defense looked slow to me. Not sure what's going on with strength and conditioning. Why are we getting so many guys hurt? But overall, the game really did what it needed to do. I kind of wish Georgia would have scored there with the backups in a little bit to make it a little bit, more of a game, not giving up that late score after the interception. But it is what it is. Georgia did what it needed to do. And we'll see this week if they're really headed in the right direction, because a lot of what happens this week is going to determine what my picks are for next week when we face Ole Miss. So,
yeah, that's going to be a huge game. But this weekend, man, this turned out to be a hell of a slate.
Dude, like they were calling a couple weeks ago, like the greatest slate of college football. This Saturday is nuts, because in addition to the ranked games, you got a bunch of where you got one team ranked, but the team they're playing is like 4-1 or 5-1. You got some crazy good football this weekend. If you are a football fan,
really do.
It's going to be a good one to be sitting around your couch if you can do that.
There we go. I get some headphones in. Sounds a little better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, awesome games this weekend. I think that's really just a product of this the conference expansion. This is one of the pros of it. Is you get these games that you normally wouldn't have, like Indiana, who's inexplicably good now against Oregon.
Yeah. Why don't we start right there at the top? I think that's our game to kick off our picks this week, right?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest game of the weekend.
Oh, by far. This is what I call a stat game, right? Why do I call it a stat game? I call it a stat game because both of these teams are incredibly impressive statistically. They are both in the top 6 in both scoring offense and scoring defense. Now, when you got into the playoffs last year, you kind of saw that with the teams that were in the playoffs and did well. They were high in those statistics. Well, both of these teams are. They're both scoring like crazy, and they're both not giving up anything.
Yeah, 2 super high scoring teams. I fully expect this to be a really fun game. I am really interested, though, to see how Indiana's defense performs, because that has really been a huge strength for them this year. And you don't really think about that for Indiana since Cignetti's been there.
Well, they were last year, though. Last year before the playoffs, remember, Indiana was the number 1 rush defense in the country last year going into the playoffs. And then they hit Notre Dame, and, and Jeremiah Love broke off that 94-yard touchdown. But they were the number 1 rush defense in the country last year. And so it carrying over is not that surprising. Like the fact that they were able to replace their quarterback and continue to score like crazy, to me, is a little bit more surprising, actually.
I mean, it seems like they actually upgraded at quarterback.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza. Let's talk about the quarterbacks in this game, because my God, like going into the season, you wouldn't think that the best quarterback matchup of the season was going to be Fernando Mendoza against Dante Moore, 2 guys, their first time startings at their respective schools. But these guys both almost have the same stats. It's almost crazy scary how good they both are. Both of them are Mendoza's at 73% completion, 1,208 yards, 16 touchdowns, 1 interception. Dante Moore is at 74% completion, 14 touchdowns, 1,210 yards, and also only 1 interception. So between the two of them, 2,418 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 2 picks, 74% completion. That's putting it on him. Even early in the season when you got some cupcakes in there, so guys might not necessarily be playing. Yeah, might not necessarily be playing the whole game. Like, it's pretty impressive quarterback play from two guys who, like I said, our first, Mendoza was a starter last year at a different school, but first time starting at Indiana, and obviously Dante Moore taking over for Gabriel there. So impressive stuff.
Talk about someone who upgraded their situation, because he was at Cal, right?
Was he Cal or UCLA? One of the two, I can't remember, but yeah, he was somewhere in California.
Actually, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it was UCLA, and that's just so interesting.
Mendoza was at Cal, right? That's where Mendoza came from.
Yeah, that's who I was talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Moore, because didn't Dante Moore started? He was at, I mean, he never started, but he originally was at UCLA, right?
I think he might have been Cal too.
Was he? Dang,
yeah.
Man.
All these crazy. Like West Coast quarterbacks, and then transfers.
He was UCLA. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. They certainly Mendoza upped his situation from Cal, but Cal's weird. Cal's a weird school. Like, they put out some good quarterbacks, even though their football team's not great there. So
yeah, Aaron Rodgers,
Jared Goff. I mean, has turned into a really good NFL quarterback. And
I forgot Jared Goff was Cal,
number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, I know. I remember that Hard Knocks where like he didn't know what side the sunset was,
or that his fiance was so excited that they actually won a game in Detroit on the beach. If you know the video, you know the video. But one interesting stat I thought about this game, though. Obviously, we talked about both prolific offenses, both really great defenses. There is one area where these teams are kind of different in their philosophies, and that's time of possession. Indiana kills you with time of possession. They're number 3 in the country in time of possession at almost 35 minutes a game. Oregon, on the other hand, like Oregon has been known for, they like to score fast. They're only 43rd in the country in time of possession. And for a team that's been blowing people out, that seems kind of low, right? Because they're not giving up any points. They're getting lots of 3-and-outs. They're getting turnovers. So being 43rd in the country, while that's not horrible, that seems low for a team that's been blowing people outright. So you've got a little bit of a philosophy difference in this game between the two schools.
Yeah, that is a really interesting stat. Good call on that one. And that's huge because we saw how effective that was for Georgia against Tennessee and Alabama against Georgia.
Right.
They won the time of possession battle and was one of the keys to those games. And if you're a team like Indiana being on the road, you want to hold on to that ball as long as you can, keep that high-scoring Oregon offense off the field, and let your defense rest so that they can get out there and be even more effective than they have been. And I think they're really set up really well for that, frankly.
Yeah. So, as we know, Georgia lost its 33-game home win streak against Alabama a couple weeks ago. Oregon has its own streak. So, since they joined the Big Ten, Oregon has not lost a regular season game. So they won all 12 of their games in the regular season last year. They're off to a 5-0 start this year. So they are 17-0 in the regular season since joining the Big Ten. And if you include the Big Ten championship and technical Big Ten games, they're 18-0. So and of course that only loss was to Ohio State. So you couldn't ask for much better of a start for them in the conference. Obviously they went and they beat Ohio State last year when Ohio State played them. So the question is, can they beat Indiana? Because if they do, Ohio State's not on the schedule for Oregon. They've already beaten Penn State. You get past this game and you already have 2 wins over teams that were ranked in the top 10, and you don't have to face Ohio State. we could be looking at another undefeated season for Oregon if they win on Saturday.
I agree. If they get past this, then they've got a clear path for that.
Yeah. So, bro, what do you think? Who's going to win the game? What's the score going to be? What you got?
Okay, so Oregon is favored by 8.5. They're at home.
That's a lot. I think that's high.
I think that's a lot too. But
there's lines this weekend all over the place that baffled me when I was looking at this. Vegas knows something, but I don't know what they're smoking. But
but for me, it's Indiana's defense and their focus on time of possession.
Okay.
Those two things really set them up really well to go on the road to a place like Autzen Stadium at Oregon, and they're going to have a chip on their shoulder because their
coach
always do. It has a chip on his shoulder. I mean, that is his MO. It's his calling card, and I think the defenses are going to be a little better than what most people are predicting. So give me Indiana 28, Oregon 24.
Okay. So I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring, but keep in mind, 2 top 6 scoring defenses in the country, they're both allowing like 10 points a game. So being better, like they're playing better offenses. So I think it's going to be a high scoring game, but these are offenses that also score 50 points a game. I don't think they're going to score 50 points. I think it's going to be a track meet, to be all honest with you. I think Oregon, because of that mindset of scoring fast, actually gives them an advantage here. Because I think if Indiana hits a situation where they have a long drive, but they don't get points, they get a turnover or something like that, they like to hold the ball. Oregon just likes to score fast. So I think it's also going to be a close game. Like you said, give me Oregon 34, Indiana 31.
So scoring fast, running your offense really fast is a double-edged sword.
It is. It very much is.
When it works amazing. But when it doesn't work, it totally screws you. And that's where I see Indiana having a chance to pull the upset here.
Yeah. And like I said, I kind of see the flip side of it. To me, in this game, I think that's actually an advantage for Oregon. So we'll see what happens. It is, like I said, that's why I brought that stat up about time of possession. Because
you're wrong, Street. You're wrong. No.
I think that's the determining factor. Time of possession and how they treat the game is going to dictate it. And like you said, if it's Indiana's control the ball, control the clock, they're going to win. If it's Oregon, fast-paced score, they're going to win. So that's why I'm taking the Ducks to continue their regular season winning streak.
All right, let's go Hoosiers. Okay. Going down to the SEC, big game for us dog fans. Headed to the Plains at Auburn at night, Jordan Hare Stadium. Let me get it right.
Yeah, better get it right.
Now, this is a very dangerous game for Georgia. Last time Georgia played at Auburn, you remember we had to rely on Brock Bowers to just basically take over the game and win it by himself.
And he did.
And last year, not so much. I do want to share some interesting stats about this series as a whole. So since 2006, Georgia's won 17 of the last 20 games. 17 of 20.
Yep.
During this win streak, I guess during this stretch, we have an 8-game win streak. Georgia has an 8-game win streak against Auburn, going back to 27.
Which is the longest in the rivalry.
Which is awesome. Kirby is 9-1 against Auburn, and in recent history since 2020, we're averaging 20.4 points in margin of victory. That's not too bad.
Nah, it ain't been close. So here's a little bit deeper on those stats. So coming into the game in 2015, this series was tied at 55 wins apiece. It was 55-55-8. Georgia
And
now
wasn't
leads that by 9 games.
and wasn't like the score even?
It was, yeah, that was in the early 2000s where it was
Okay.
like within a game or two, and the points was within like 10 points
Yeah,
total.
it was like everything was ridiculously tied.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But even it is as recently as 10 years ago, it was a tied series, and now Georgia has this lead by like 9 games.
Yeah, that's going back to the Rick days.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, Georgia's only lost once to Auburn under Kirby, and they've only lost 3
And that was
times.
the prayer at Jordan Hare, right?
No, that was still rigged. The only time they lost was 2017, and that's when they turned around and beat them 2 weeks later in the SEC championship.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Yeah, it was national championship season.
But the last 2 times that they beat Georgia before that were both in Jordan Hare. 2010, the Cam Newton game where Georgia was not good in that 2010 season. They ended up having a losing record, but they got up early. Aaron Murray threw 2 long touchdowns to AJ Green, and then that was the Nick Fairley Cam Newton game where Cam Newton just got it rolling, and Nick Fairley kept spearing Murray, and that was the game for a lot of Georgia fans.
So
if you were a young Georgia fan, you may
before we went on, I saw nothing but clips of Nick Fairley spearing Aaron Murray over and over and over. Like that was every Twitter post today.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing about that game. Before that game, Georgia and Auburn were always close. These games were always close. Georgia hated Florida. They hated Tech. Auburn hated Alabama. This rivalry was a friendly rivalry. It really was. Like when I first came to school, having not grown up in a Georgia household, like I had friends who went to Auburn, like it was cool. That's the day it changed. Since 2010, if you are a younger Georgia fan and you've always hated Auburn or whatever, it's because of that game. That was the day that changed things. So, like I said, the last 3 losses Georgia has to Auburn are all at Jordan Hare. So Georgia, if there's a place that they're going to drop a game to Auburn, it's there. Auburn is a great environment. They're known for that. But you know what? Georgia went on the road a couple weeks ago to Tennessee, which is a bigger stadium, which is said to be just as good or a better environment than Auburn. They're both notorious as top places to play. But Georgia went in there, got behind early. Tennessee was scoring like crazy. They had their crowd behind them. They came back and they won. And they had no false starts that game.
Yeah.
So to me, this Georgia team, for all its faults, being on the road is not going to be the intimidation factor that I don't think that's going to determine the game. Lots of people around the country, the pundits and stuff, are saying, oh, yeah, Auburn's going to win because this game's in Auburn. It's so hard to play there.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just what they have to hang their hat on right now at Auburn.
Yeah.
Because you look at their offense, their offensive line has been atrocious all season. And part of that is on the quarterback.
Right.
Jackson Arnold holding on to the ball, not throwing it at all. We get on to Gunnar Stockton about not throwing it, but just look at Jackson Arnold. That he never gets rid of the ball, and he got sacked 10 times against Oklahoma.
Right.
So
there's
Auburn opportunity there for Georgia to finally get some pass rush in this weekend.
Auburn is dead last in the country in sacks given up. Dead last, 135th out of 135 teams. They've given up 21 sacks. Okay. And then on the flip side, Georgia ain't sacking anybody. They're 116th in the country. They've only got 7 sacks on the season. So to me, something's got to give there, right? Like if the Auburn is really that bad at protecting its quarterback and Georgia is really that bad at rushing, like something's going to come to a head, I think.
Yeah, I think it's, to me, it's easier to get better on defense and get better at a pass rush than it is for a bad offensive line to finally become good. Because think about last year's Georgia team. The offensive line just never got it together at all at any point in the season.
I think the Kentucky game, while Georgia only had 2 sacks in the game, Georgia was harassing the Kentucky quarterbacks. Like they were under duress. Georgia was getting pressure. And I think it helped. One thing that I liked about that Georgia-Kentucky game was Georgia was up 35-7, but it wasn't like they were up 50-7. Kirby put the backups in and let them play the entire fourth quarter and part of the third quarter. And that got guys experience, which is what Georgia with that young team needed. And there's a couple of guys that kind of shined a little bit.
You're
that
right.
Maybe you're going to start getting in the rotation. Chris Jones.
Exactly.
You're going to see him. I think you're going to see Ogboko maybe get into that rotation. A couple of guys just to kind of get it going, get a little bit more rotation, because that's what Kirby's defense always had, was we had guys who rotated in. We could keep guys fresh because the guys who could come in behind him could play. We didn't have the experience to do that early, but that Kentucky game let him do it.
Yeah, and Kirby used to just do like full out, line changes.
Right.
Like they do it in hockey. the whole or defensive line swapped out for a whole new set.
And as much as Georgia's pass rush and stuff has been maligned, their rush defense has been great. Georgia currently holds the number 13 rush defense in the country. But what makes that impressive, it's impressive anyway, but what makes it more impressive is the fact that they've done it without a ton of sacks. Like sacks count as negative yards against your rushing totals. You're 116th in the country, but you've got the number 13 rush defense. Like when we had the number 2 or 3 rush defense in 2021, we had tons of sacks. So that's pretty impressive. Now, Auburn's rush defense is also strong. They only allow 88 yards a game. I think they're top 20. So their rush defense is strong too. But when you look at Auburn rushing the ball, it's Jeremiah Cobb, and then it's Jackson Arnold, and that's it. And Jackson Arnold, despite the fact that he's been sacked more than any quarterback in the country, is their second leading rusher.
And if there's one thing that Georgia does really freaking well, that's run the ball.
Right.
Whether it's one of 4 running backs or the quarterback.
Right.
They're going to get their yards.
Difference. Right. That's the difference between what Auburn is doing rushing the football and what Georgia's doing. Georgia's spreading the ball around. It's not one guy. And the quarterback is included in that as well.
I saw an interesting stat today, too, that I don't think anybody has realized. Gunnar Stockton actually is the number 2 rated QBR rating in all of college football.
Yeah. There's so many stats. I don't even know what QBR is.
I don't know. I don't either, but it looks good. He's behind Fernando Mendoza.
So I think at the end of the day, I think both these teams, Georgia is definitely a running team. That's kind of what the identity is. But I think for Georgia to win this game, or to win comfortably in this game, they're going to need to pass it a little bit more. It can't be a Gunnar 15 of 23, $170 game. I think Gunner's going to have to pass it a little bit more. Now,
so question on that.
Yep.
So we have this transfer. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Noah Thomas. Apparently, he transferred to Georgia this offseason. Haven't seen him since. So last year, when he was at Texas A&M, he had one of his best games of his career against Auburn. So now people are saying, okay, is this going to be the breakout game for Noah Thomas? Is it?
I mean, I don't know. They need to stop saying it might be, because he's going to have a good game here or there. I don't know what it's been, if it's just him fitting in the offense or what it is, but we haven't found them targets. But that's okay. I think Georgia has been finding this run identity, because last year, what was the real reason that Georgia's offense struggled? Was because it couldn't run the football. And I think Kirby wanted to establish that, and they've done that. They've established an identity running the ball. I think the pass game is still a work in progress, but I think
it is,
because the running game is strong, it will get better. I think Noah Thomas will work in. Is he going to work in this week? I don't know. But I don't think that matters. I think this game...
I think it really just comes down to Gunnar gaining confidence.
Right. I think this game really comes down to the Georgia defense against the Auburn offense. I think the Georgia offense is going to score some points. I think they can. I think they're very capable.
Yeah.
And I have a lot more confidence right now in the Georgia offense than I do the Auburn offense. Now, Auburn, coming in this year, they brought in Jackson Arnold, and they brought in Eric Singleton, and they have Cam Coleman. So they've got these 2 dynamic receivers, and they've got this quarterback, and Arnold hasn't played great, but when you got dynamic receivers, you can break out. But my question is, Georgia has already faced teams that had dynamic receivers. They faced Tennessee, who had Mizell, and they had Matthews. who had big games for them. And then they played Bama, who had Williams, Bernard, and Horton. So they've already played that. Yes, Georgia has given up some yards in those games in passing, but those are teams with really dynamic quarterbacks who were playing well with the receivers.
Yeah, two of the best quarterbacks in the country right now.
Right. So do I fear Jackson Arnold that he's going to be able to repeat that? Or do I think this is a game that might be a get right game for the Georgia secondary, especially if Everett can lock down on Cam Coleman? I think this might be.
I'm interested in the other side cornerbacks. So we know Ellis Robinson's going to play. He's been continuing to get better each game, and that's great. He actually leads the SEC in interceptions with 2. So it's got that going for him, which is nice.
Yep.
But there's some other young guys that got to play last week who showed some flashes of some ability that it'll be interesting to see where they fit into the rotation. And I hope to see Georgia's secondary, like you said, get right in this game, because if they can shut down those 2 receivers, that's definitely a confidence builder moving forward in the season.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, how do we pick this game? So
Flip a coin.
I don't think it's a flip a coin. I think Georgia is the better football team here. I really do. I think they are a better defense, and I think they are a more consistent offense. Now, that's not to say that Auburn's a bad football team. I know, some people are like, Freeze is out the door, whatever. But I think Georgia should win the game. Now, if Georgia plays to its ability, and what I hope they do to be ready to play Ole Miss next week, I would hope that Georgia scores at least 30 points. Because if Georgia scores 30 points on a good defense, that to me says that, hey, we can put up some points and we're ready to face Ole Miss next week that's going to try to score points. But do I think that's going to happen? I don't feel that confident in it because I've watched them. I know we have these inconsistencies. We run the ball great, and then we get to 3rd and 1 and we can't get a yard. I've seen it. I think Georgia's the better team. I think we might have stuff that we have. I think we do a better job in the secondary, but we still might give up a couple of big plays. That's what's happened in the Georgia-Auburn series the last few years. Georgia's given up a few plays. You were talking about the game, the Brock Bowers game a couple of years ago. Well, that was Peyton Thorne broke off like a 70-yard run on a 3rd and long to start the game. And he had like 130 yards rushing. Peyton Thorne didn't do much. So what I think Georgia wins. I think Georgia covers 3.5, which seems small. Give me Georgia 28, Auburn 20. Close game, but Georgia wins going away.
So I'm much more optimistic about this game. I'm much more optimistic about our offense. I think that's the strength of the team. Power running game. You've got a quarterback who's very risk averse with the ball, and that's not always bad. It's not always good, but it's not always bad. He's got 1 interception on the year, and that was taking a chance, and it was a good spot to take a chance. And Kirby even said that was he liked what he saw out of that, even though it didn't go the way we wanted it to go that time.
Yeah.
So offense, I think strength of the game. I don't think Georgia's going to have a problem putting up points, and the defense is really where the question marks are. If Jackson Arnold pulls it, so think about the Florida game last year when DJ Lagway was in. He didn't complete a lot of passes, but the few he completed were all deep shots that kind of changed the complexion of the game. That's going to be the key to Georgia's defense, is shutting down those big explosives in the passing game. And I think they might give up a couple, but over the course of the game, it's not going to hurt Georgia in the end. I see Georgia winning 34-20.
Okay. All right.
And
well, if that happens, if Georgia wins by 14 and they score over 30, that is going to make me a lot more confident to potentially pick them next week.
Well, I love my truck.
Auburn sucks.
I never really cared for Auburn.
Nope.
Okay. So a lot of good dog talk there. So let's go up to another huge game in the Big Ten. Doesn't seem as big as it would have. What I guess as it looked like at the beginning of the season, since Illinois got absolutely destroyed by Indiana. But this is still an interesting game because Illinois is still a good team.
Them going out and winning last week at USC helped kind of salvage the image of this game. I think if they didn't pull that comeback last week, you're looking at a 20-point spread at least.
Yeah.
But them going out there and winning that game on the road helped out. But like we've talked about with Ohio State, our offense is humming along. Julian Sayin has been perfect for them. He's completing 80% of his passes. He's not being asked to do anything crazy. He's got 13 touchdowns. Like, he's not putting up crazy numbers. People aren't talking about him as a Heisman candidate or anything yet, but he's doing everything they asked him to do. He's not, he's got 3 picks, but he's not turning the ball over crazy. Whatever. Their offense is going to score. I think Indiana proved that Illinois' defense can be got. Ohio State's defense, though. So yeah, that's the thing.
You're not going to score on that defense, the number 1 scoring defense in the country.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about it. So a defending national champion who lost a bunch on defense. You thought their offense was going to be pretty good this year because they had Jeremiah Smith and all this stuff, but you didn't know about their defense. They had Downs and a few people, but Ohio State, we're 5 games into the season, right? They've given up 25 points in 5 games. They're averaging 5 points a game on defense. Teams have only even made it to the red zone 8 times against them. Nobody has scored a touchdown in the red zone on Ohio State this year. 0 for 8.
Sounds like the old Georgia defenses.
Yeah. But even getting to the red zone only 8 times in 5 games, that ain't much either.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. It sounds like the 20, 21, 22 defenses that Georgia had.
So, Ohio State, like I said, only giving up 5 points a game. They're not the Ohio State teams of last year. They're only averaging 37 points a game, which is modest for them. But
that's all they need.
Right. When you're only giving up 5 a game, who cares? Yeah, like I said, I think you hit it on the head, though. I don't see how Illinois can score in this game, like much at all. I think Ohio State's too powerful. They'll do exactly what they need to do on offense. Run the football. Sayin will complete a couple long ones to Smith and Carnell Tate. Give me Ohio State in this one. 34-13, and it's probably not even that close.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I'm going 32-10. I just think that defense. I honestly feel like going with 10 points for Illinois is gracious.
It's a stretch.
Yeah, just considering how well Ohio State's defense is playing. But Illinois is at home, so that's got to count for something.
Yeah,
but there's not too many teams that are going to be able to stack up against Ohio State. That's just
not the way it is playing right now.
Yeah. All right. Now this is a very interesting game. Alabama goes to Missouri. And this is a game that you wouldn't have thought was going to be a huge game, but now it is.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have thought Alabama Vanderbilt was going to be a huge game either. But 3.5, to me, and obviously we saw Alabama in person, we saw what they did to Vanderbilt. Since that Florida State game, everything has just gone in the right direction. The problems they had in that game, I don't know what it was. Everything's moved in the right direction. To me, Alabama is playing what we thought Alabama was going to be, which was an experienced team with stars on the offensive side of the ball, and this is their 3rd straight game against ranked opponents. So they're battle tested. They played Florida State on the road. I think everything's going in the right direction for them. Now for Missouri, Missouri's playing well, but their best win is against Kansas. Bringing in Hardy to play running back has been perfect for them. Pribula, was fortunate in the starting role when the other guy got hurt week 1. He's been good. Hardy's been awesome. He's probably been the best running back in the country. And Damon Wilson, who should be rushing the passer for Georgia, but instead is rushing the passer for Missouri, has been really, really good. He was a 5-star. There's a reason that we had him at Georgia. He's been really good. So they've done some great things with their transfers, which is Drinkwitz has done that before. So they're playing well, but can they stop Alabama, what Alabama's doing right now?
I think they'll be able to slow them down because they are able to rush the passer. And if they can continue to successfully do that, that gives them a great chance of at least disrupting Ty Simpson.
Because that's what Florida State did, right? Florida State rushed the crap out of him, and then Ty Simpson, didn't make the plays that he did against Georgia when he was clean sheet.
He still didn't have a bad game against Florida State.
No, but it wasn't dominant on third down. Like
no,
it was against Georgia.
He wasn't playing like out of his mind like he was against Georgia. It was this, this ultimate pocket presence and getting rid of the ball laser fast.
Yeah.
With Missouri having a really good pass rush, I think that keeps the score lower than I think most people are expecting.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this game is kind of similar to their game last week against Vanderbilt for Bama. Vanderbilt's a solid team, right? They've got a good quarterback. They can string some stuff together. But I think the Bama talent, while Missouri has some nice transfer talent, I think Bama has top end talent that is healthy, which they weren't at the beginning of the year, that's playing well. They've added these wrinkles with having Caden Proctor involved in the offense more than just on the offensive line. And Ty Simpson's playing well. So I think both these teams are good. I think Missouri's a good team. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think that they are quite at the level that Bama is playing right now. If I was very surprised that this was only a 3.5 point game, because while, Como's a nice little place to go and people like to go there, I don't think it's that tough of a place to play.
They do boast the nation's longest home winning streak now.
Oh, interesting.
So Bama has a chance to hit 2 in a row or 2 streaks this year.
So with that being said, like I said, I think the spread should be bigger. Obviously, I think Bama's going to win the game.
That's what she
said. So give me Bama 35, Missouri 24.
I hear you. I think it's actually going to be a lot closer. Missouri at home is really, really tough. We saw that when Georgia played them in 21, I believe it was. Georgia barely escaped with a victory out of there.
22.
Or 22. It was one of those. And this year, I think Missouri has a lot more talent than Vanderbilt does on their team. As good as Pavia is, I would take
I think Vanderbilt's pretty good. Like, actually, I think Vanderbilt's playing well because I think they developed and they brought in some good transfers. I think anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if Pavia doesn't fumble and throw an interception in the red zone,
it might have been
a lot different game. Yeah. But the thing that Missouri has going for it is at home. They have that pass rush. I don't think they're going to win, but I'm going Bama 21, Missouri 17 in a close one.
All right.
I think it's going to be a fun game.
Low scoring.
Yeah. Missouri's going to get after Ty Simpson. Show him what's up. Okay. A game that surprisingly is underwhelming, in my opinion. The Red River Shootout. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang. One of the coolest environments in the country for a game. I wish they would, if you're going to play a game not on campus, I wish it was more like this and less like Auburn selling out to play Baylor and Atlanta. Like it's a cool situation. It's a cool game. Texas is favored by 3, which after losing last week to Florida and Oklahoma coming in undefeated, you thought, well, maybe that's just because of the John Mateer injury. Rumors going around that Mateer might play. It was a hand injury, so you don't really know. It's not like it was a knee or something. It's a hand that he throws the ball with. If they did surgery and it feels okay, he can grunt through pain in that hand, I would think. But he may not be the same, right? He may not be able to grip it as tight. He may not be able to throw it as well. So that's kind of really the wild card in this game. Texas had this game against Florida last week. Well, Florida, keep in mind, was thought to be a top 10 team coming into the country or into the season. So maybe they figured some things out. Lagway had a game like he was supposed to have, and it was at Florida. And Florida was able to harass Manning. I think Florida's defense is probably better than Oklahoma's, even though Oklahoma has done a good job of getting to the quarterback this year. So if you're going to beat Texas and you're going to continue to, harass Arch, you're going to have to get to the quarterback. So to me, that's the real question here. Does Texas hasn't been able to get the running game going all year. If you looked at their stats, they have no running back with more than like 150 yards in the season.
They haven't been able to do anything on offense, period.
Right. And last year, the reason that they were good last year, even though Ewers was inconsistent, was they were able to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, if Texas is going to be favored and win this game, they're going to have to establish the run to take some pressure off of Manning. That's the only way I see them winning the game.
The line on this game really blows my mind, honestly. After watching what Texas has done this year, Texas offense can't do anything like we talked about. Just got absolutely destroyed against Florida on the offensive side. They didn't do much against Ohio State, but I mean, no one's going to do much against Ohio State. And you could say the same for Florida. But given the fact that the Texas offensive line is so porous this year, they can't run block, they can't pass block. I think I saw a stat today that so Florida, I think leads the nation in quarterback pressures, and they literally doubled the amount of quarterback pressures that they had going into the Texas game.
Oh, wow. So that's why they're leading the country in pressures.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Oklahoma leading the country in sacks because they had 10 sacks.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah, all right, you play against Texas offense, you got a chance.
Yeah.
And going back to Oklahoma getting 10 sacks against Auburn, those offensive lines seem very comparable at the moment. And we know Oklahoma's defense is good. They're proven that, and I just don't think Texas is going to have enough firepower in this game to pull it out.
So what's your pick? What's your score?
I'm actually saying Oklahoma 20, Texas 10.
Okay. I'm going Texas. As weird as it sounds, I'm going Texas because I think their defense is good and because I think the questions about Mateer, if he plays, is he 100%? If he doesn't play, Oklahoma is not the same team without him. So to me, that's the fact. I know they said Vegas is downplaying that. To me, that's everything, I think, in my opinion. I don't think coming off a hand injury a couple weeks ago and you're throwing hand, even if you're playing and you can tough it out, I just don't know if you can be that effective against the defense that's this good. Texas may struggle on offense, but I think their defense is good. So I'm going to take Texas, I don't know, 28-14 or 28-24, something like that, close game. I think Oklahoma, can still they'll still be able to move the ball, but I just think Texas is going to find a way to win. Defense, turnover, something like that. So Texas 28, Oklahoma 24.
So some key matchups though, the turnover margins. Texas turnover margin, they're +3, where Oklahoma's -4.
There you go.
And Oklahoma's third down defense is first in college football.
Interesting.
So that's why I have Oklahoma. Some impressive stats on the defensive side. Now,
Yeah, like I said, I mean they bullied Michigan, right? So
they
you
did.
do that to Michigan. If they play like they did in Michigan, without Mateer, I just don't see the offense being there. It's not really a question of the defense.
Yeah, well,
This is
I
a
just
rivalry game that weird things happen in this game too, right?
True.
There's been years where one of these teams has been way better and the other one kicked their ass. Like,
yeah,
so.
I don't think Oklahoma's going to have a lot of offense.
Yeah,
just because Texas' offense has been so bad.
Yeah.
Of course, now I say that they've been so bad. Watch Arch go out there and have the best game of his freaking life.
Right.
All right. So speaking of the team that Texas just played, Florida travels to Texas A&M. And this is a much more interesting game after last week, because the big question here is, did Florida actually figure out something on offense?
And they changed their philosophy last week. And if they gave the ball to Jaden Ball like 25 times. And he had a huge game. And that opened it up for Lagway.
And they got a receiver back.
Yeah. Dallas Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they had their backs against the wall and they switched it up against Texas. And it worked. But the question is, did it work for 1 week against Texas? Or is that what they're going to become going forward? I don't know. They've been so bad in other games that I can't say that, oh, they played a Texas team that, as you mentioned, can't move the ball on offense, and they hit some big plays and they won. So I don't know. Texas A&M's been consistent. That's what they've been this year. They can score. They can score. They had a shootout at Notre Dame. Marcel Reed's running the ball. They ran, I think you texted me, they ran for like 300 yards last week, which is what we thought. Going into the season, we thought this A&M team is going to be able to run the ball a ton, and they are proving they can. Now, Reed had that big game against Notre Dame where he threw for 300 yards. And it's very, these quarterbacks are kind of similar. Marcel Reed is a guy who doesn't have a high completion percentage, but he can throw for some yards when given the chance, but he can run the ball with his legs. Kind of like Lagway.
His completion percentage has actually creeped up this year. I think it's around 65, 69%.
That's pretty good then. And Florida, Florida was at home last week and they had their backs against the wall, and it was that was their game of the year at home and all this stuff. So they struggle. They've been struggling the last few years away from the swamp. So I think A&M, I see this game similar to, Florida a couple weeks ago. I just don't. I think last week was an anomaly. I don't think Florida has figured it out. I think A&M has some confidence. We've talked about that. We like Mike Elko and what he's doing. So give me Texas A&M 24-14.
I like it. So Texas A&M has some injury concerns. Le'Veon Moss, questionable. And they have a linebacker named Scooby Williams. I just wanted to say that.
How come Scoobies are always good linebackers? Like, wasn't there Scooby Wright a few years ago at Arizona that was really good?
I don't know. But, Texas A&M's defense has been really good this year. They're able to run the ball. Florida played great last week at home in the swamp in a great atmosphere. Now they're going into another great atmosphere where Brandon Walker likes to say there's a bunch of weirdos. Just hilarious to me. And like I said earlier this week, I'm coming around to the Marcel Reed hype train again. I'm not quite there. He's doing better. He's getting better each week. And if he continues to do this, then Texas A&M is going to be very dangerous down the stretch.
Yep.
So give me Texas A&M. I don't think it's going to be close. I'm going Texas A&M 30, Florida 7.
Whoo, man. I mean, I went
Yeah.
10 points, and I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I think Florida offense reverts.
Yeah. All
No
right.
reverts. It reverts.
So that was the end of our big game previews. I think we got some quick hitters we wanted to go through, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
once again, a lot of these games are better games than they should be, like on paper. So
Yeah, let's try to get through these quick. So
Yep.
we've just got a few of them. All right, BYU at Arizona. I'm kind of stunned a little bit that it's a 2.5 point line. Haven't really kept up with Arizona this year.
So here's what I'll say about Arizona. Last year,
tell me a little about Arizona, because they weren't very good last year.
2024, they were the preseason pick to win the Big 12, and they had a bad year, right? But this year, they're off to a good start. They're 4-1. They're playing good football. BYU had last year, they considered, when I looked it up, considered one of their best seasons in school history, like top 5 in their school. We talked about it when we did their grade last year. And then they lost their quarterback right before the season started. So they weren't expected to be much, but they're playing well. They're undefeated. I think this is a good game for both of these schools because I think BYU is looking ahead to that matchup with Texas Tech. Arizona here, they're 4-1. They're kind of resilient. They're playing pretty good. But I think BYU's got the momentum. And like I said, I think they've got their eyes a couple weeks down the road. So I'm going to take BYU to win the game.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I'm going BYU. I feel good about them. And I'm really hoping we get that undefeated matchup in the Big 12 later on this year.
Yep.
Texas Tech, BYU, that'll be huge. Huge.
Do
you see Texas Tech's new logo?
It's horrible.
They totally
so
cracker barreled it.
Yeah, they did. And they were like all excited about it. It's stupid.
I called it a white bread sandwich without any condiments.
It's good description.
It's just about as plain as it gets. All right. Arizona State travels to Utah. This should be a fun game.
Yeah, I think Utah is actually ranked in one of the polls. They're not ranked in the other one, but I think they are ranked in either the coaches poll. I can't remember which one. But yeah, Arizona State recovering after the loss to Mississippi State. That kind of tarnished a lot of people's image of them, but they're kind of getting back right. I think this is a matchup of both teams are 4-1. Utah has that loss to Texas Tech where they kind of just got dominated there, but they're playing good football. But I think Arizona State, like I said, coming off that Mississippi State game, they're getting back right. I think they are a good team that we thought they were going into the year. So I'm going to take Arizona State.
I will also take Arizona State. They have the better quarterback, and they're a team that's on the rise, in my opinion. So Arizona State, good Sun Devils. Okay. Now this will be a fun one too. USC dropped out of the rankings this past week when they lost to Illinois, but
this would have been a big game if they
have an amazing offense. Yeah.
It would have been number 15 versus probably 17, 18. So this would have been a big deal if USC wouldn't have kind of blown the second half there against Illinois. But you're right. USC does have an amazing offense.
Yeah, and that was on the road. And it's funny because now Big Ten people are starting to complain that, they're losing these games because they have to travel so far. No shit.
That's what you asked for.
You should have thought about that before.
Yeah. So I was listening to Pate talk about this game, I guess. Last year Michigan beat USC at home, and Michigan did it without any kind of semblance of a passing game. Like, they could just run the ball and that was it. This year, they actually have some competency at the passing game, though they don't have great receivers. They've got a good young quarterback that's playing well, but they have Justice Haynes, who is leading the world in like long rushes and just breaking them off left and right. Michigan is making big plays in the rush game, and that's where I think they can harm USC's defense. So give me
Who is
Michigan
this
to win the
Justice
game.
Haynes?
Yeah, I know, man. Hobnail boots, son. So give me Michigan to go out there and win at USC. I think, Lincoln Riley likes his quarterback a lot. He's playing really good, but I just think Michigan's defense is a little better. I think they can run the ball and control it. And I think this is a step. We talked about Michigan in the preseason. We thought they were going to be a good team. We talked about that game with Oklahoma, that the winner would be set up nicely. The other one would be a fringe playoff team. I think that's where Michigan is. I think they're a better team than USC overall. So give me Michigan.
Great pick. Great pick. I'm actually going to go opposite. This pains me.
Yeah, you're the Michigan man.
I've been high on Michigan, and I still believe in Michigan. Not as much as Joe Hendry, but I believe in Michigan. But USC, their offense has been so good. I think they're going to be angry. I say angry, as angry as a Southern California team could be.
Right.
But their defense seems to be a little bit improved. They're getting great play at the quarterback position, and Michigan is still kind of iffy on offense. We've seen some growth, but they kind of struggled a little bit at Nebraska, and I don't really think Nebraska is very good, in my opinion. But so I'm going USC.
All right.
Sorry about it.
All right. Last game is another USC. We've got
That's
South
right,
Carolina. We got South Carolina traveling to LSU. The game last year, South Carolina probably should have won, right? Lenore Sellers gets hurt in the game. There's some horrible calls. South Carolina probably should have won, but USC won the game, or LSU won the game. This year, LSU is off that loss a couple weeks ago. Then they had the bye. South Carolina has not been impressive this year so far. So the question is, we thought USC was really good, but the Clemson loss and the Clemson game didn't look as good. And then, they got beat by Ole Miss. So what do you think, bro? Do you think LSU is continuing to decline and maybe this is the start of Brian Kelly getting fired? South Carolina, we know they've got this insane schedule. And I really did like, I don't know if you saw it today, what Shane Beamer said. Did you see what he said?
Yes, it was great.
It was awesome because they asked him, well, is it fair, that you have this schedule? And he said, yeah, hell yeah, it is. This is what you want. This is why you play in the SEC.
This is what you signed up for. If you don't want this type of schedule,
you don't want to be that, don't be here. Shane Beamer, Shane Beamer may not be the best football coach, but I do like his approach to the game. With that being said, I thought I've discounted LSU a lot over the last few weeks, and then they lost. I don't know if Brian Kelly can get this back on the rails. I'm picking the upset here. I know it's LSU favored 9.5. Give me South Carolina.
Bold prediction. There you go. I as much as I like what South Carolina was doing last year, and looking at that game, yes, they should have won that game. If Sellers doesn't get hurt, they probably do. But this year's South Carolina team is not as good as last year's South Carolina team. They don't have the same type of running game, and the defense isn't on par with what it was last year. With all of LSU's troubles and whatnot, they get this game at home. That counts for something, and they still have a really, really good defense. And Nussmeier is a good quarterback. So I think they're just a better team. So I'm going LSU.
All right, man. Well, that wraps up our picks for the week. I like I said, I think this is a great week with all these matchups, even these games that weren't the big games. You got a lot of good ones. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun week, fun weekend. We'll be back on Sunday night, 9 p.m., and we will talk about all this stuff that happened on the weekend, and we'll see how dumb we are with all these picks, and which is probably pretty dumb. Not gonna lie. I wanted to use the whole brilliant idiots thing, but apparently that's another podcast, so it kind of sucked. I was really disappointed about that. But yeah, we'll be live on Sunday, and look for me to do the post game. Do you want to do post game with me this weekend?
We'll see. Oh, I got to see what's going on after
Okay.
the game. So
Okay, well,
just depends.
I will be there at some point after the Georgia Auburn game. Talk about that. Give you all my thoughts on that. Whether I'm happy, sad, mad, want to cry in a corner or not, or go drink some more beer. So it's gonna be a fun weekend. If you love college football, like and subscribe. Tell a friend, be a friend. And until next time, I'm Burl.
I'm Straight.
And this is the Nitro College Football Show. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.